Hi everybody, I'm Natalie with Missouri Star Quilt Company, and today on Embroidery 101 we're going to learn the ladder stitch. So it's a little bit of a trickier stitch, maybe a little more advanced, but we're going to go through it one step at a time and I think it's going to be really fun. Alright, so we've got these two parallel lines to work from. We're going to start on the lower line in the bottom left corner. We'll create our first stitch by going straight up to that other line, and then we're going to go back down and make a little stitch across the top. Kind of looks like you're putting a T up there. And then we'll come back up next to our other stitch. So we're making another parallel line. Oh, the back of my thread popped through. Just gonna pull that out. And then what we're gonna do is bring this down from the top and create a little loop. This is the beginning, and your needle needs to go through that loop because we are creating the very beginning of the ladder stitch here. Now we'll go back up to the top. We go underneath that stitch and underneath the rung. So we have two rungs on our ladder now. We're going to continue down this way, making another little line along our top parallel line. And then we're going to come back up down here, making another rung for our ladder. And what we're going to do is go in between these two rungs, and we're going to come out through the loop to create another loop. So that should pull it down a little bit, separate those rungs just a tiny bit. You kind of want to work them with your needle. Then we're going to go back up to the top here, go into that stitch and under the rung in between those two. So we're creating another loop, and we are going to separate these rungs real quick and then put another stitch in right here as we go along that line, create one more loop, one more ladder rung, I guess, and then we go in between these two and out in between or under that loop of the last rung that we made, pulling that through. Oh, sometimes I forget to get it looped there, but that is what we're going to do. Okay, so now we're just going to repeat this process a bunch of times. So we go back up here under this stitch and also underneath in between those two rungs. So you're just going in between the last two that you made, pulling down to create another stitch, going back across, and then you go in between these last two rungs on this side and come through that loop, the last stitch that you made. It almost looks like a little bit like a braid on this side. It actually looks like a braid on both sides. So you're just kind of weaving your way through. So you go under that stitch, in between these two rungs, just like that. Then you go down and create one more rung on your ladder. So I'm going to put a few more stitches in here, and we're going to go over to the hoop so you can see it a little bit closer. All right, so here's our closer look. Can you see that pretty braid right there? I like that. I think it looks really nice, and you can see it on both sides because of the way that we're weaving the threads. So we're going to go under this stitch and then under the rung in between the last two rungs that you made to create our next little rung in our ladder. Then this thread goes down through this fabric and under through the back and comes back up. Nope, you don't want to have a knot there, so let me pull that out. Sometimes that just happens, they get caught up. All right, so now we're going to go through in between the rungs on this side and through the loop that we just made. This needs to go through that loop so that you create the next little braid on your side of the ladder. And then you go back up through that stitch behind and in between the rung, and then across and under, and then back in between these rungs and through that stitch, through this loop, and we just keep right on going. It's just kind of a process, but it's pretty when it's done. In between the rungs and through the loop, loop it through there, back up under the stitch and under the rung. I'm just going to end it by going back down in here and putting a little knot in the back. So I found ladder stitch to be a little bit tricky. It was complicated and it caused me to have to slow down and really concentrate. I think it turns out really beautiful. I love the braids on both sides of the ladder, but feel free to take your time, take a deep breath, pause, rewind, and just practice. It's one of those ones that you'll be proud that you did it. It may frustrate you a little bit like it did me, but I think it'll be a good one to add to your embroidery projects in the future. And I hope you enjoyed this video on the ladder stitch from the Missouri Star Quilt Company.